Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about the good morning and why we use it to build our power squat. This is one of the movements that a lot of people don't understand in this regard, and it's because people don't realize that the power squat is actually more or less a good morning because they're not understanding that squatting versus hip hinging is a spectrum, not an either or. Right, on the farthest end, you probably have something like a completely upright front squat or a goblet squat, done with a relatively narrow stance, all the way over to a full range of motion good morning or a stiff leg deadlift, even being the other extreme on the hip hinge. But everything else is along that continuum. Different types of deadlifts are on the continuum, different types of squats are on the continuum. And when you look at a good morning, it should be obvious that a good morning looks like a heavy squat lockout, taken to the extreme. And that's a point I've always heard Louis Simmons make in the past, that if you can get your good morning as high as your squat, you will never miss the lockout on a squat. Because the only other muscle that the good morning doesn't work that is used in the squat is the quads. And if you can get the weight started, then the quads are never, ever a weak link. In fact, I'll go so far as to say that, while working quads can absolutely build your squat, caring about your quads a great deal for a man, who can't squat close to 500 pounds is probably largely a waste of time because we have to just build overall muscle in the low body. And when you look at the good morning, that's what it does. We'll get into a minute of it. It's the same movement. It really is the same movement when you look at those side views. It's just a squat with less bending at the knee, right? The exact same hip positions, the exact same amount of hip flexion occurs. Okay, except that when we squat, it's all done as one fluid movement. But it is there. It is there. And what you will generally find because of that, 9 out of 10 times, any amount of weight that you can do a good morning with, you can absolutely squat. Right? If you can do a good morning with a weight, you can absolutely squat it. So I would argue there in that case that one of the keys to building a big squat is to just build your good morning. And it sounds crazy to people because like, well, why put that much work into such a dangerous lift? Because it's not that dangerous of a lift. You guys just watch one of my guys right there do 500 pounds with it. He never got hurt. He never pulled anything doing that. Right, that guy weighs 175 pounds. He's incidentally had squatted slightly more than 500. Right? He had squatted slightly more than that. But the thing is, if we get the good morning strong enough, we can do it. Now, if you're concerned with your low back being hurt, you need to learn to control the good mornings. Right? We need to learn to control them. And you need to do some extra work for your low back, some very high rep work. Reverse hypers, high rep good mornings, maybe high rep band or cable pull throughs, things like that. Right? You can build your low back up, and then it becomes less of a concern. And it really shouldn't be a concern if these things are strong. Right? A weak low back is the concern, not the exercise. All right. But when you look at the muscles involved, it's all the support musculature for the squat and the primary movers. What do we think of as the primary movers on the squat? The glutes, the adductors, the quads. All right, hypertrophy studies even looking at the Olympic squat, again, the high bar, shoulder width stance, all that, right? They found that glutes and adductors grow from squatting slightly more than quads do. What does that tell us? That tells us that those muscles, if push come to shove, are hit harder. They're slightly larger contributors. Doesn't mean the quads aren't, because they are. It would be like saying, well, the front delts don't matter on the bench press. Well, of course they matter. Of course they matter. They're a primary mover. So, we know they matter, but the question becomes, should they get a priority? And I'm going to say only if they're a weak link. Otherwise, those other muscles matter more. Well, those muscles get hit directly very, very hard with a good morning. Okay? They get hit very hard. What else gets hit? Hamstrings and low back, and actually middle back, T-spine, all that stuff. What are those? Those are the support muscles on the squat. They build the base to keep the squat in the correct positions that we want, to get the bar path that we want, and therefore to make the most efficient use of your primary movers. Well, they get hit hard on a good morning. This very much makes it the biggest compliment to the squat that you could possibly do. I mean, it's right up there. Okay, and that's from a hypertrophy. It directly and heavily hypertrophies 2 out of the 3 primary movers, and it directly hypertrophies all the primary support muscles. Therefore, build your good morning up, your squat's going to go up to a point. After a certain threshold, maybe not, but it will certainly build it. Okay, as long as you can get the weight moving out of the bottom. But the good morning attributes the ability to do that. So, when we look at the rest of the movement, though, okay, look at what the good morning is. Helps you follow through with hip extension. It is a squat with less knee bend. Okay, watch that whole movement. If you watch it and watch her do it from the side. All right. It will build your squat because it will replicate the top half of the squat completely, potentially with a really heavy weight. Okay. That means if you get enough speed to get it past the sticking point, all you have to do is good morning the weight up. Well, the best way to get good at good morning is to do the good morning. And again, the point here is because a lot of these lifts, when we go for true maxes, what happens? They get a little squirrely. They get out of groove. All right, if we get a little bit out of our groove in that direction, the good morning will fix it. It's like Louis Simmons said, you get your good morning as high as your squat, you will never miss at the top half of a squat. Okay, because you'll just be able to use your back to follow through, and all your hip extensors in general, and that's the idea. All right, got it? Hopefully so. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.